Chapter 602, Sorcery Master. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. The dark blue emissary fell faster than the two broken hulls and hit the ground off the top of a rocky mountain. The mountain collapsed. Boom. In an instant, the dark blue emissary held a huge sword and broke through the soil. He stood on the ground with his hair disheveled, and his body covered with blood. He held his sword still and he bellowed toward the sky. Damned reddish emissary, come out here right now. How dare you kill me? I'll make you feel so much pain that you would rather die than live. 18 wisps of pink smog flew from the distance and merged to form her charming figure. She flew to the top of the broken mountain and stood on the edge of a blue rock, giving a disdainful glance at him and said with a laugh, "You have the worst talent among the 7-star emissaries. Do you really think that you are great? You have lost your chance to kill me because you will die today." With his hair standing on its ends, dark blue emissary boiled with anger and his lust dissipated. The only thing he wanted to do was to tear her into pieces. But he was trying hard to resist his anger because he knew that there was another master hiding in the dark, who had wounded him severely before. When did the reddish emissary recruit such a strong superior? Dark blue emissary clenched his teeth and said, "Call your helper out and I'd like to see who he actually is." A voice came far away. "Don't you know that I'm always behind you?" Having heard Zhang Yuoquan's voice, dark blue emissary immediately looked back and saw a 333-meter-tall man. He wore a white robe with a metal mask on his face and was standing on the top of a maple tree leisurely. Dark blue emissary's heart sank. But without Zhang Yuoqing's voice, dark blue emissary could not even perceive his existence. From this, it could be seen that the person's spiritual power must have reached a very high realm. It was likely to have reached the 44th level. As a cultivator of 6th change in the fish-dragon realm, fighting with the master of the 44th level spiritual power was basically committing suicide. Escape. He must escape. Dark blue emissary decided to take out an imperial edict and prepared to make use of its sent power to escape. Dark blue emissary's master was also a saint of the black market. He naturally had an imperial edict. As long as he injected genuine qi into it, the saint power inside could be activated. In times of danger, he could escape to a place thousands of miles away. How could it be possible for reddish emissary let the dark blue emissary escape? It's Terra Dreamland. Reddish emissary drooped her eyes and waved out the holy crystal staff. At that moment, a red light shuttle flew out and turned into many fine red rayons covering the surrounding area with a radius of 5 kilometers. Suddenly, dark blue emissary seemed to have seen something incredible, and his hand movements gradually slowed down before stopping completely. All of his blood vessels and meridians tightened and started protruding from inside the skin, looking as if they were going to burst out. He rattled as if he was being strangled. In the end, the dark blue emissary had lost his strength and knelt on the ground, falling forward. Ultimately, he died. Even Zhang Yuoquan, who was standing tall at 333 meters, was affected by the sorcery and felt lost for a moment. However, as soon as he realized that he was not in good condition, he immediately condensed his spiritual power into a lightning blade, struck forward, tearing the dreamland into nothingness. In a second, Zhang Yuoquan came to his senses and found that dark blue emissary had fallen to the ground. He was pale and had turned into a cold dead body. At the same time, he smelled a faint fragrance. Reddish emissary had appeared beside him. She reached her delicate hand out to remove his mask. Zhang Yuoquan immediately seized her snow-white wrist and said in a low voice, "Her Excellency, what are you doing?" Reddish emissary was surprised. She didn't expect that Zhang Yuoquan would wake up from the dreamland this quickly. Zhang Yuoquan was also surprised. His spiritual power was higher than hers, and he was standing about 333 meters away from her, but he was affected by sorcery and even felt lost at one point. The battle between real masters could determine whether you could live or die in a moment. "Why are you so nervous?" "I just wanted to see what you look like," said reddish emissary flirtingly. Zhang Yuoquan removed her hand and said coldly, "Her Excellency, if you still wanted to cooperate with me, you'd better not do such stupid things again. I won't uncover my mask and let you see my face until I think it's time for me to do this." Reddish emissary didn't get annoyed and took back her hand, rubbing her wrist gently. She bitterly glared at Zhang Yuoquan and said, Okay, I'll wait for that day. Zhang Yuochen gazed at Dark Blue Emissary's dead body and said, sorcery deserves to be one of the most terrific occult arts. Even a master like Dark Blue Emissary could die in Dreamland. It had always been very difficult to cultivate spiritual power, which was why the masters of spiritual power were very rare. However, sorcery was very difficult to practice. Among 10,000 masters of spiritual power, there might only be one sorcery master. Because the power of sorcery was extraordinary and unpredictable, it was deemed as one of the most terrific and bizarre occult arts. Martial arts masters, including half-saints and saints of martial arts, were afraid of meeting sorcery masters because most martial arts masters only paid attention to power. Hence, their spiritual powers were not strong enough to face sorcery masters. The weakest half-saint could probably defeat a saintly being of the 9th change in the fish-dragon realm. However, a sorcery master with the 44th level spiritual power could likely kill a half-saint effortlessly. It was not an exaggeration to compare a sorcery master to the saintly being of a spiritual power monk. Sorcery masters were very powerful, but they also had their weaknesses. For example, if a sorcery master encountered a master of spiritual power who was much stronger than them in spiritual power, the effect of the sorcery they cast out would be weak against masters of spiritual power. Or, if a sorcery master encountered a monk with amazing willpower, the power of sorcery would also be greatly reduced. In general, sorcery masters were pretty scary. People tried not to provoke them. Even the lawless second elder brother was afraid of meeting with Phantom Saint. This time, Zhang Yuochen had realized that he had looked down upon Red Wish Emissary. Both her strength and her wisdom were not as simple as they seem. He used to think that at her age, it would not be easy for her to cultivate spiritual power to a 43rd level. Her attainment of sorcery couldn't have been that high. Unexpectedly, this siren was more gifted in sorcery than in her spiritual power. No wonder she was so ambitious to compete with the DE for the position of a young master. She was hiding her strengths this whole time. If someone was deceived by her delicate appearance, I was afraid they wouldn't know how to die in the end. Zhang Yuochen said, with your attainments in sorcery, it should have been easy for you to deal with Dark Blue Emissary. You didn't even need my help. Red Wish Emissary shook her head and said, as one of the 7 emissaries, Dark Blue Emissary is the hardest to deal with. The reason why my sorcery was effective was that he was injured seriously and his psychological defense had been completely defeated because when he was so anxious to escape. 7-star emissaries have all received special training, hence they have developed strong willpower. Without your help, it was impossible to kill him with my current attainment in sorcery. Zhang Yuochen was still doubting what Red Wish Emissary said. He thought of how he should be more careful because such a siren must have hidden her strengths. She was not a simple person. Red Wish Emissary walked toward Dark Blue Emissary's body and picked up a golden imperial edict. She stuffed it into Dark Blue Emissary's sleeves, patting it down. She said, Dark Blue Emissary's master, known as the Saint of Blood Hell, is a very powerful predecessor. We better not take his treasure from his body, so as not to let the Saint of Blood Hell find clues to trace us. While talking, she condensed a red flame in her palm and getting ready to burn Dark Blue Emissary's body into ashes, erasing all traces. Wait a minute, I have a better idea, Zhang Yuochen said. Red Wish Emissary turned her charming face around slightly and looked at Zhang Yuochen, saying coldly, what do you mean? He said, I know a friend of the Yin and Yang sect. He is in Cyan Cloud County right now. Maybe he can help us deal with this matter. Will your friend admit that he killed Dark Blue Emissary? Red Wish Emissary asked. She licked her red lips and laughed, unconvinced of what he said. In this world, there are people who would take lives to gain fame for their name. Killing Dark Blue Emissary would make anyone famous in the eastern region. Many people will fight for this chance, he said firmly. Give his body to me and let me try. Red Wish Emissary looked at his firm gaze and somehow gave birth to a strange feeling of trust in him. Red Wish Emissary dispelled the flame in the palm, thought for a moment, and said with a smile, okay, I'll hand this matter over you. I will return to Red Willow Heights to deal with some people, and I'll be waiting for your good news. With this, Red Wish Emissary soared and flew to a height of 33 meters. Her long and delicate figure instantly turned into 18 wisps of pink smogs, flying out to the sky before disappearing completely. He released his spiritual power and ensured that Red Wish Emissary had left. He touched Dark Blue Emissary, finding out a holy sword, a pagoda-shaped amulet treasure, 2 11th level genuine martial arms and some pills and rare books.